an average Nigerian is an happy person. Whether you are young, whether you are old, I don't want to know the tribe that you belong to. There is a gene of happiness in our blood. So I
don't want to, interrupt.
Okay.
I just really need to ask this question.
Okay, please do.
Timely that you said there's a gene of happiness in our blood. I'd like to think that there's also a gene of fear in our blood, especially for us young people. Because you've cited all these examples of young people, defying the odds, a young woman in the traffic, young man on the bike, on the farm, on the road by 3 a.m. Sorry to the people in Lagos, and things like that. There is also that fear of wanting to have a better future.
Okay.
Compared to what the present is. And like you rightly said, this is our afternoon now. We've come from our morning. This is our noon time. We are trying to secure a good evening.
Thank you for that.
That sounded very good. We're trying to secure a good evening. But there is that gene of fear. So let's bring this conversation now back to, we're happy, yes. We're also afraid as young people when it comes to nation building. You don't want to be the person who is seen as a leader, but who has nothing to his name.
Okay.
Right? You don't want to be that leader, that youth leader, or that thought leader who is always dishing out great things, great ideas, but you do not have any business to call your own. You don't have anything that people will call you and identify you with. And so I think that's one of the reasons why, in as much as we keep talking about youth involvement in nation building, we don't have so many people, because they want to focus on their business. They know that the business, even if it fails, at least they put their all in it, right?
Okay.
And they can get their money back. But if you fail in leadership, you cannot get money back from it. So let's see now. Let me ask you, and I'm also going to direct the question to you, Mr. Adewale. How can youth combat this fear to the point that as they're building their businesses, they're also actively involved? They're not waiting for one time to, they're not waiting to do one thing at a time because they don't want to be completely disappointed, if I can use that word. How can youth go around this fear, this gene of fear that we don't really like to acknowledge? Yeah. We like to acknowledge the gene of happiness. How do youth battle that gene of fear?
Let me let Akanni take a little rest so that I can put his stuff together and just chip in, and let's walk down the memory line of history. Of course, I'm an historian, so I'll be able to tell you a lot of stories. Pre-independence, the last 10 years to independence, Nigeria was so prosperous. When I mean so prosperous, from agriculture alone, say by 1948, returns from agricultural export was put to about 51 million pounds as at that time. And by some few years, 4 or 5 years towards independence, it has increased to say 81 million pounds. All of these things were what propelled people to fight for independence. And I have this theory to prove how prosperous Nigeria has been. Now, if possibly the colonial master knew that sometimes, some way, somehow, oil will be discovered, they probably wouldn't have let us go. That's and then this wealth keeps coming. And what was the result? The result was that people began to build hope in what we call the sort of hope that people build in countries like America, like a place of opportunity, freedom, liberty for all. This was the same hope Nigerians had in Nigeria as at that time. People like, the foremost leaders then, Obafemi Awolowo, all of them, right? All the Anthony and now, these guys were in their late 20s and early 30s. And they were actively involved in politics, leadership, everywhere, even globally. And also in part of our conversation, I have to bring in women because I'm an advocate for women inclusion, women leadership at some point too. Because when we talk about young people, we're talking about young men and women, and the women are somehow excluded too. A woman like Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, who was always everywhere. Why? Because there was this hope that the country gave them. That hope is not there now. I did a rough, research of the pattern of migration of Nigerians, young Nigerians especially. Let's leave the old people because there are categories of old people who are, young Nigerians who have migrated from 2015 up until this time. You'll be shocked. Let's put that aside. Try to understand why they left. Fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of non-accomplishment. You have great potential as a young person, you have great ideas, you have great capacity, but the enabling environment to get those things, materialized is not there. I'll give you an example. In a country like Tanzania, under the former president John Magufuli, when Magufuli came on board, there's this recurring idea that he brought back because it's something. It seems to be very common with Tanzania. Under their first president to say, Julius Nyerere, those people, had a country where wealth was created, and there was even of that wealth. To the point that, all you just need to do is to ideate. And when you ideate, there is that enabling environment to get your ideas, materialized. That enabling environment is not there. And it is simple. The result is that young people are afraid. And just to bring it home, I am afraid too.
So if all the young people keep running away, what happens to the country?
Now, we're just talking about the issues now, right? We have to now look into ways to addressing that. Now, another thing is that while I advocate for people, taking bulls by the horn, taking their destiny in their hands, why they leave? Don't also forget that diasporans contribute to our economy too, and they contribute to national development, even though we as a country have not done so much to recognize how much, diasporans, can contribute towards development of a country. Of course, everybody cannot leave. But those who have left, they can contribute significantly to.
Let's say, for instance, you're asking if everybody leaves, good. These people, if they are opportunity to leave, for instance, and they establish businesses. Look at the other day, that was banned. A lot of small businesses shut down. Greatly affected.
So these are the things that, aggravate the fears of young people. And fear is a very, very dangerous phenomenon. In short, we have to
cuts.
Oh, why?
No, it's good. The record reached its limit, so we have to.
So we've talked about how we have the happy genes and how fear is a dangerous phenomenon that causes people to run away in search of better realities, not just better futures. But this brings me to the next question, because we are Christians. We are Christians, we are youth. So we are Christian youth. So that means a lot. First, we are youth.
We are body of Christ.
And then we now have the life of Christ. And we follow the Bible. So it means that when we're reading and taking the Bible as reference, it was really the young men in the Bible who did amazing things. So let's bring it back to nation building in Nigeria. What is the roadmap for Christian youth that want to venture into the political space? Mr. Akanni.
Okay. While I was citing the case and scenario of a then president who was raised by a church, I forgot to let us know that most of the great things that he did, they were when he was a youth. So basically the role of the roadmap, or the role of what we as a Christian can do, as Christian youth, like you said. First, we need to understand the problems that we are facing. So many of us, we don't really understand the problem that this country is facing. Our problem goes beyond no electricity, bad roads, and bad economy or unemployment. Our problem is like a roof, and there is no how I'll be making a case that I'll be talking about the society and then the family. But I'm not talking about the family in a father and mother context like this. I'm talking about family in the church. Because church operates in such a way that everything is a family. You're a member of a particular church. What are your roles in that church? Are you just a member that comes to church every Sunday? You don't attend Bible study. You don't go to midweek service. You don't join online meetings. Yours is just to go to church Sunday. Yours is just to...
You're not even a group member.
So yours is just to go to church. I used to be like that before too, right? But we get to understand it more. Yes, you can go to church every Sunday, but I bet I'm putting it to us here that most of the teaching, you understanding the word of God, you can't capture it only on Sundays. So now take it down, you becoming part of a particular sales or activity group. Leadership is a journey. Leadership at all levels, whether in government or in corporate or even in your family. Leadership is a journey. The problem is that this is not particular to Christian now. I'm speaking on general term. Everybody wants to lead. Nobody wants to follow. Do you guys get me right? Everybody just wants to be the face. If some people, most of the people, whether ladies or guys, the department where everybody wants to serve in church is ushering.
No, I don't agree. I think it's the choir.
So
I
wait.
think it's ushering because when people are seated, you are standing, everybody can see.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ini. Thank you, Ini.
Well, I disagree. I think it's
Okay.
visitation. You hit.
So I would, you all can disagree, you all can agree with me. But I'm putting it to us. Most of the people that I know, so let it just be my own idea now. Most of them want to be in ushering departments. I don't want to talk about reasons. Then you talked about choir. It's not everybody that can sing. But the ushering department doesn't require you to sing like Nosin Oyekan or Victoria. Oh, thank you very much. But you see, everybody just wants to be the face. Fine. Leadership is also an habit. You have to develop it. Some people, they are born leader. But it's not the day that we give birth to a child that such child starts walking. Even language and speech development has a face. You have to code before you babbling, before you now start talking. You have to crawl before you can start walking or running. So as a youth Christian, right, we need to start taking roles. It doesn't have to be leadership roles. Be part of your church growth. This particular church that has given me so much, what is my contributions? What is my roles? How am I making difference in this particular church? A church is doing a program, whether a skill acquisition program or a normal evangelical or revival program. How are you trying to look within your circle to touch life through that?
All right. So I like how you talked about looking from within first before looking outside. So let's talk about somebody who has done all these things. The person has consciously been a part of the church, has joined the department, is active, is bringing in more people, is just really making the work that is being done in the church more productive by their participation. And now this person wants to go outside to do something. But there's this fear of, oh, people have already said politics is dirty.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to tarnish their holy image. They don't want to stain their white with the mud of politics. How do we handle this? Because I don't personally believe that politics is a dirty game.
Thank you.
But how do we handle this as Christian youths that have that inhibition at the back of our minds that politics is a dirty game?
So let's calm down. I like to lay emphasis a lot. Analytical. So you probably enroll for carpentry or how to sew a shirt. You learn all the skills. What is expected of you is to demonstrate or practicalize it. You are good in church. You are so talented. People see you as problem solver. Just imagine in your mind, fear aside, the dirtiness in politics aside, imagine in your mind this particular gift that God blessed you with. Imagine if you take it just a step beyond your current dispensation.
Yeah.
How many lives are you going to touch?